opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for the partnership. You all have been by my side for the last 3.5 years, so thank you for that. So again, my name is Nikki Fried. I am your Commissioner of Agriculture, the only Democrat on our Florida cabinet, and living proof that we can and we will win Florida. When I say we, I don't just mean Democrats. I mean we, the people. A lot of you have heard me talk about my Jewish faith and Tikkun Olam, to heal the world. That is our calling as people. That is a core of who I am. This is what you in Florida needs to know about me. As a teenager, I was volunteering at soup kitchens in Miami, Habitat for Humanity, and numerous other community activities. At the University of Florida, I became the first Jewish woman to become student body president in almost 2 decades. When I graduated from law school, I joined a big firm, but I knew quickly that that was not my calling in life. That is when I went off to become a public defender, because I knew that I can do so much more with my background. And I saw as a Alachua County Public Defender's Office the true injustice of our system. And I have been working around the clock to try to work towards fixing not only our criminal justice system, but overall equality and equity here in the state of Florida. And I mentioned to you my time as a past government consultant, because we did some incredible things when I was there, for pushing Republicans to actually do better for our children in the foster care system, that every single child has a right to an attorney. I know what it takes to win. I know what we need to be doing to work together, because we cannot afford to lose this race, because I know who loses when we lose. But I know that I have complete faith in us as Democrats, that we are going to win by lowering the cost of our standards, lowering our costs, but also raising the standards of living across our state. To nominate the only Democrat to win our state since Barack Obama did in 2012. And to know this history, we know that we can win our state. So thank you again for tonight, and I can't wait for the conversation.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Glad you're here. Next, we have State Senator Annette Tadeo. She's the senator from District 40, Miami-Dade County. The daughter of an American fighter pilot and a Colombian mother, Annette was born and raised in Colombia. She is a working mom with a daughter in public school, runs a successful small business, and has lived the American dream. In 2014, Annette was the first Latina in Florida to run statewide as a Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor. And now she's running to be the first Latina governor of Florida. Annette currently represents a district Trump carried, a seat she flipped from red to blue in a special election in 2017, becoming the first Latina Democrat to serve in the Florida Senate, and was subsequently reelected. Her legislative accomplishments prove her true compassion for the underserved, as well as building a stronger Florida, environmentally, economically, and educationally. In her years in the state Senate, she not only earned the trust and respect of her fellow Democrats, but has been able to work across the aisle and even persuade some Republicans to see the light. Wow. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. I'm delighted to be here with all of you. I am actually in Puerto Rico, where today I visited an area of Puerto Rico that is called Salinas. And it's an area that is environmentally protected, but yet somehow all this building is going on and it's killing the mangroves and obviously created major problems. So we have a lot in common with Puerto Rico, not just the fact that we have over 1 million Puerto Ricans that now live in Florida. But I always start my talks with a very important subject. And I always start saying, Florida, we have a red tide problem. And the red tide problem in our waters kills our fish, and it's really bad for our health, and clearly is very bad for our economy when all you see is dead fish every time we have one of these algae blooms and just the terrible smell. But we also have a red tide problem in Tallahassee. But the red tide problem in Tallahassee actually suppresses voters' rights, and it kills democracy. And that's why I'm running for governor, because in order for us to fix all the problems we have with red tide, with our drinking water, with the fact that there is no environmental protections or very little, we keep taking them away. We keep looking the other way for special interests. We keep taking away the right of local communities to pass their own laws, encroaching on home rule instead of letting those areas do what's necessary to protect their environment and therefore their economy. That's why I'm running for governor. And just like we made history with many of you helping in 2017, when I became the first Latina Democrat in the Florida Senate and subsequently got reelected and became the first Latina Jew in the Florida legislature, we're going to do it again with the first Latina governor, but someone that has a record of fighting and not afraid to fight the special interests when it comes to protecting our environment and, more importantly, our water.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for that wonderful, those wonderful introductions. We're going to just go ahead and get started in the questions that we have, and I think most of you recognize these issues. They, again, statewide issues, local and statewide. The first one is kind of broad-based, and we'll start with Secretary Freed, and the same question for all. What have you specifically done to consider yourself an environmental leader?
Thank you for that. I wish we had more than 2 minutes for this. I've been consistently a pro-environment voice of our Florida cabinet, and most consistently pro-environment since Bob Graham. Sierra Club called me the champion we need when it comes to fighting climate. I was the only vote against TECO expanding fossil fuel power plant capacity, only vote now twice against the destroying of the Everglades wetlands and conservation land for the Dolphin Expressway extension. I've also held past DEP secretaries to account regarding dozens of failures at Piney Point. I called out the governor for illegally unilateral appointment of our new DEP secretary, pressing the issue until I forced a public interview. I've spoken with a megaphone loudly of cabinet officials' deep well injections of toxic water waste into Piney Point. Was out there every single day during the emergency disaster, called on the governor to have an actual state of emergency. I've been against Mosaic's expansion of the new whales gypstacks. I've written letters. I've protested this issue. I've also been against giving wetlands permitting authority that is unprepared by DEP. In fact, even just this past week, wrote another letter to DEP, up to feds, to make sure that we start to reverse this. I've also been against fracking and oil drilling in the state of Florida. Another important issue and action item, the manuals inside the Department of Agriculture, or Office of Agriculture Water Policy, had to be revamped. I did that within the first year and a half. We started working on those manuals that haven't been touched in almost 20 years. I called on Florida utilities for a state of emergency, including getting to net zeroing. I've attempted to ban styrofoam. Unfortunately, the Florida legislature refused to pick up our policies. Created the first ever state EV maps. We've created $1 million of low-income energy efficiency grants, $2 million of public wastewater energy efficiency grant, established the first ever statewide study of energy equity issues, invested millions in local community energy efficiency upgrades, and held the first ever climate summit since 2008 with environmental stakeholders across the state. And again, I wish I had more than 2 minutes to go over the last 3.5 years that we've been involved in this fight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Tadeo, 2 minutes, specific examples of how you consider yourself an environmental leader.
Well, thank you so much. And I also wish we had more than 2 minutes, but that's real easy. I have a record of lots of examples of bills, including, for example, from the minute I got there, making sure that we ban fracking and making sure that I worked on that bill. But unfortunately, they won't even hear it. And all of the preemption bills, making sure that, again, local communities are able to do what they need to do when it comes to plastic bottles, when it comes to plastic bags, styrofoam, all of the things that I know that local communities wish to do because the state doesn't have the courage to do it. But let me talk about one bill specifically of mine, and that is my water bill. We are currently allowing corporations for no money. Specifically, in this case, it was Nestle back then when I filed the bill, and that is to not allow them to get the million gallons that they get per day out of our springs. We have got to stop giving away our precious resource, which is our water. And I will tell you, when I filed that bill and I actually convinced the Republicans to put it on the agenda and to hear it, they spent millions of dollars, millions on TV that session, putting ads about how great Nestle was and how great they were to the environment. Obviously, we weren't able to pass our bill, but I will tell you, it gives me great pride that they had to spend millions of dollars claiming that they're good to the environment when we know we as a state should never be giving away that money. We should actually make sure that we have an investment into protecting our water and making sure that we have enough of it. And we know we have a huge problem when it comes to our water. So I'm very proud of my water bill. And I know that this is something we should be doing instead of giving it away for free to corporations.
Thank you so much. We'll agree with that. And finally, Congressman Crist, 2 minutes to tell us why you consider yourself an environmental leader.
Thank you, Kathy. As governor, I appointed consumer advocates to the Public Service Commission. Because of that, we canceled 6 new coal-fired plants, vetoed unjustified rate hikes, and instituted a pro-solar net metering policy where the utility monopolies would have to pay you a fair price for the electricity generated for them. And thanks to all for speaking out, raising your voice. Our net metering policy lives to see another day, and we need a new governor to make sure of it. I also negotiated the largest ever deal to buy over 100,000 acres of U.S. sugar land, a true game changer for the Everglades. While the Great Recession postponed acquisition and my successor had other priorities, we're going to get this done. I guess I have a little more time. In 1971,
You do.
president at Riviera Junior High School, we held a school dance. The student council did, raised $100. I took the check down to the St. Petersburg City Council, and they started for the first time ever their recycling program with recycling bins on all 4 corners of the city. Very proud of starting that so early. It's been in my heart a long time.
I also remember going to Tallahassee and asking that the people be able to vote on the anti-oil drilling bill, and you happen to be there among us. So I'll throw that in for you because I was there and so were you.
Thank you.
All right. What's next, Russ? Where are we? Next question. Next question is a 2-minute question also, and we're going to go in order of Senator Tadeo, Congressman Crist, and Secretary Freed. We vote in a primary for who we love, and in a general election, we vote for who we can live with. Many voters see a small difference between Democrats and Republicans. We need to point at DeSantis and his environmental lies, his continued promises about ending red tide, with no real rules or regulations to end the pollution that causes it, only studies that are giveaways to his cronies. His focus only on climate adaptation versus any real action to curb our contributions to catastrophic climate change. This question is, why should people count on you to deliver climate action? And again, starting with Senator Tadeo.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for highlighting that we do have a governor that is very good at pretending. I mean, he appointed a blue-green algae group that came out with all kinds of wonderful recommendations because there were real scientists on there and real people that care. But yet it's just all it's done is kill trees because it's been printed, but it's been sort of collecting dust instead of actually implementing. So why should they trust me? I just told you earlier that I am not afraid to go up against big corporations or the special interests. And that is unfortunately what we have in Tallahassee. We have a bunch of people that are more worried about upsetting some big donors instead of actually making sure that we have a state for our kids moving forward and a place that we can be happy to live in and have clean air, clean water, and all of the things that we need to do, including our economy. They love to talk about our economy. So why should they trust me? Because I'm never afraid to do the right thing. I never have. And I will tell you, I've paid dearly for it, but that's okay because that's what we need. We need people that are not afraid, that are going to be there in the fight and that are going to do the right thing and not just pretend for the headlines, which is what this governor has done in essence, and we should implement all those recommendations. We should make sure that we appoint actual experts to the boards that serve.
Excellent.
I can't see the timer, so I just want to make sure you guys know that I'm on my phone, so I'm not able to see the timer. So if I don't want to get upset if you tell me time, because I can't see it, so I apologize for that.
Gotcha. Well, I'm depending on Russ for that. So
Yeah, and I'll put you and I on Spotlight as well, so that way everybody can see it.
Great, thank you.
that was excellent. Congressman Crist.
My record on climate change, I think, speaks for itself. As governor, I convened a national climate change summit with my friend, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger of California. We set a goal of 20% renewable energy by 2020 and got the Public Service Commission to go along with that. At the time, they said, gee, if these two Republican governors of large, diverse states get the picture on climate change, maybe there is hope for us. Of course, I'm no longer a Republican. I'm very proud to be a Florida Democrat. I saw the light. I understand the party that is doing the right thing for our country and our state. And I remain more committed than ever to getting the job done on climate change. I not only want a renewable platform standards for our utilities, but I want to put solar panels on 1 million roofs in Florida. For goodness sake, we're the Sunshine State. Let's power our homes, businesses, schools, and electric cars using our state's most abundant natural resources. That's the way to have a better future. That's the way to have a cleaner future. That's the way to address climate change in the way we as Floridians can do and lead the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, why should people count on you, Secretary Freed, to deliver on climate action?
And thank you. And again, I just went through 2 minutes and I talked very fast because there were so many things that we were able to accomplish in the last 3.5 years. I have a record to now run on, and including other things like releasing just a few weeks ago new energy goals, setting us up to 100% renewable by 2050. Everglades oil drilling permitting was denied after I spoke up very strongly and DEP rejected it. Because unlike most past governors, I recognize that we are facing a climate chaos. And I have done all of this already, challenging it, taking it on, sitting next to the governor in cabinet meetings and watching him spew misinformation and not taking our environment seriously. I've worked with our state lawmakers to introduce major energy climate legislation each and every session, from greenhouse gas registries of state facilities, carbon sequestration incentives, farm energy water efficiency funding, creating a flagship climate change institute. And in fact, I was the first governor, but the first Secretary of Agriculture, Commissioner of Agriculture, that's actually sent infractions from our ag water policy over to Department of Environmental Protection. No other past commissioner has sent a single case over. Under my administration, close to 7,000 cases. And unfortunately, nothing has been done with it, which is also part of the reasons why I'm running for governor, to make sure that those 7,000 plus cases actually get handled. At the federal level, when Trump's EPA approved aldecarp in Florida, I denied the permit here in the state of Florida, blocking one of the world's most toxic insecticides banned in over 150 countries around the world from using it here in the state of Florida. I have a proven track record. Every single day, I'm standing up for the environment and making sure that we as the state of Florida are moving forward.
Thank you. Fabulous, everyone. Looks like you're all ready to get into some good trouble for the environment. All right. Third question, and we will start on this one with Congressman Crist and go to Secretary Freed and Senator Tadeo. In 2014, 75% of Florida voters said yes to using real estate transaction fees to protect corridors and conserve and protect wildlands. That's a huge mandate and a powerful way to reach voters. And this one really is, I think, important to voters and how you get your message across. So in 1 minute, what messaging are you currently using to engage imagine a very short elevator speech for a very short building. In 1 minute, what messaging are you using to engage the electorate to vote on conservation and environmental protection? Starting with Congressman Crist.
I don't have to tell any of you this, but here in Florida, the environment touches everything we do, literally. It's our economy, it's our jobs, it's our tourism, it's our quality of life. Being able to take your boat out on a weekend without red tide Ron ruining all the fun. It's our costs. Climate change and rising sea levels are threatening infrastructure, making the cost of insuring your home more expensive. We're already paying the price, and it's our security. When Putin invaded Ukraine, it was a wake-up call to what all of us have been saying for decades. Clean energy is energy security, period. If you've got solar on your roof and an electric vehicle in your garage, God bless you. You're not feeling the pain at the pump or when you open your power bill. I want all Floridians to have the kind of freedom and clean energy security, and I'll make sure it happens as your next governor. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, we have Commissioner Freed.
Thank you. For those who remember, back in 2018 when I ran for commissioner, I had 3 W's: weed, water, and weapons. Water was number 1. And those are things that I ran on and things that I accomplished. We all know that clean air and pristine waterways are so much more essential to our economic well-being and are pivotal to our environment. And our environment is what makes Florida so special. I will set attainable but aggressive renewable energy targets for our electric utilities. My administration will target tax credits towards solar as well as other forms of energy generation. Florida will no longer ignore solar. We will streamline the adoption of solar, creating jobs along with clean energy. Restoring our Everglades is non-negotiable. The Everglades are the beating heart of Florida, essential to our environment and to our soul. I will immediately implement an aggressive Everglades restoration plan to ensure we have no doubt efforts to restore the Everglades. I will halt and continue to make sure that the Everglades and Lake Okeechobee are number 1 priority.
Thank you. And finally, on this question of messaging, Senator Tadeo.
Thank you so much. First of all, look, I think that what I have to say is that we need to make sure that we are not putting, we need to make sure that our taxpayers, our policy, our environment, all of it is all on a level playing field, because it affects all of us if we don't deal with the environment. It does affect our economy. It does affect our home ownership. It does affect our insurance bills for our homes, because of course, if buildings are collapsing, if there is flooding, excessive flooding, intrusion of salt water into our drinking water, this affects all of us. So this is the reason why we should care. This is the reason why we got to elect someone that doesn't just say things, but actually gets things done and actually protects our environment, not at the expense of everything else, but because of everything else. We must protect our environment in order for us to live here, in order for us to grow.
Thank you. Thank you all. Again, this is something we do work on in messaging, and we expect to be getting something out actually to all the candidates very soon. We're working with other caucuses on this as well, because it is something super important to most Floridians. We feel the environment as a winning issue. Next.
We're at poll time. I think we're on our first poll. Yes.
Our first poll.
Yes.
Our first.
Yes. So we're going to launch the poll for everybody on the number 1 environmental issue that they feel personally. We're going to then let the candidate answer that question, I believe, and then we're going to give the results of the poll. But while that's open, Kathy, you want to read the script for the next question? That'd be great.
Well, the next question actually is essentially, what do you think is the number 1 issue affecting Florida's environment?
And then the follow-up on that. Right?
And what will you do on day 1 to affect that issue?
We're going to go ahead and give it another 10 seconds for this poll. If you want to vote, please do so. And there were too many issues, just for everybody. It's all broken down because there's just too many environmental issues to address than to have every single one. So we kind of grouped them as well as we could. Okay, and then we'll share the results after that.
All right, so this is the question for the candidates. Not knowing, of course, the results of the poll, but again, there are so many issues. It's tough to narrow it down. Starting with Commissioner Freed and then Senator Tadeo and then Congressman Crist. This question, and it's 1 minute. What do you think is the number one issue affecting Florida's environment, and what will you do on day one to address that issue?
Well, number one issue is climate change. It wasn't too long ago that Governor Rick Scott wouldn't even let those words be said or be used in his administration. And although that climate change represents a very real danger, it is also an opportunity to generate jobs through innovative technologies and cutting-edge energy efficiency efforts. We will focus on advanced energy sectors and work with unions and industry leaders to train workers for these good-paying jobs. And we will work with leaders at the federal, local levels to not just respond to climate change disasters, but to prepare our communities for the changes that will be coming. We also need to recognize that no state in the union is more susceptible to the efforts of a changing climate than here in the state of Florida. We've already felt the impacts of extreme weathers here in the state. Instead of ignoring climate change in the environment, our government will embrace it. State initiatives fostering energy efficiency and reducing waste will include updating our building codes, expanding our power grids, clean energy vehicles for the state, and truthfully, all the things that need to get accomplished are things that we've been starting inside the Department of Agriculture that unfortunately the Republican legislature has prevented. So be able on day one to get those accomplished.
Thank you. And next on that question is Senator Tadeo.
And I'm sorry, what was the question? I was trying to plug
I'm
up.
sorry. What do you think is the number one issue affecting Florida's environment, and what would you do on day one to address that?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious from everything that I have said that it is water. But I do think that we need to have, we actually need our regulatory agencies to actually do their job. What a concept. We actually have existing laws that should be enforced, but are not being enforced. Previously with Rick Scott, we actually had, the developers being charged instead of the government. And we should really make sure that we enforce all the laws that are already in place. That we also put in on those boards, for example, the water management boards, that we actually have experts, that we actually have people that know what needs to be done to protect those, to protect our water. And also, obviously, this goes all together with working with the federal government and making sure that we work together so that all of the projects, all of the money that comes from the federal government is actually being utilized properly. And infrastructure projects as well need to be done in a way that is thinking of the future.
Thank you. And finally, Congressman Crist, number one issue affecting Florida's environment, and what would you do on day one?
Thank you, Kathy. The number one issue affecting Florida's environment that the governor can have the biggest impact on is water quality and climate change. Water touches all of us, and it's up to the state to regulate it. On day one, I'll let DEP know there's a new sheriff in town, and we'll get to work. We'll implement the recommendations from the Algae Task Force. We'll allow localities to protect their environment from sunscreen that hurts the reefs, plastic pollution that ends up in the ocean, or fertilizer runoff that sullies our streams and rivers. We'll restore the Ocklawaha River by removing the Rodman Dam, improving health and the vitality of the springs throughout North Florida, as well as the St. Johns River. And we won't abandon coastal communities in the Treasure Coast and Southwest Florida by letting sugar dictate lake policy at Lake Okeechobee. This November, Florida voters are going to choose between Red Tide Ron and Clean Water Charlie. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Got to jot that one down. Okay, thank you all.
So I'm going to go ahead and report the results of the poll.
Oh, go ahead.
Real quick. It looks like climate change came in. There's a lot of choices here, but climate change, sea level rise, extreme temp came in at 28%. Clean water, red tide at 22%. And then legislative inaction on climate policy. So just so everybody sees that, obviously everybody knows these issues are all important, but if you had to pick just one, it is climate change and clean water. And we'll use that to reference our messaging later.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for participating. Next question. We've touched on this a little bit. Again, this is a 1-minute answer. We'll be starting with Senator Tadeo, going to Congressman Crist, and then Commissioner Freed. Harmful algal blooms have killed seagrass and manatees and harmed our water-based economy. It's not getting better, and Republicans have been in power for 25 plus years and done nothing. What's your relationship with Mosaic, and should they be allowed to expand their stacks and their deep water injection into DeSoto County?
Well, let me start with, I don't have a relationship with Mosaic. I have to think about that one. But I think that I said it. I have actually said that I have co-sponsored for us to ban actually, going in and doing all this damage to our environment. So we have got to stop and make sure that that becomes law in Florida, and ban fracking. As far as, just making sure what would I do about all these things is, again, what I've said all along is we need to make sure that we have somebody that is actually not responding to special interests, not actually working for those with huge amount of lobbyists and huge amount of interest, but instead representing all Floridians. What a concept to have a governor that would actually respond to Floridians instead of to special interests. This is why we have so many problems.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Commissioner Freed. Oh, I'm sorry, Congressman Crist. What's your relationship, if any, with Mosaic, and should they be allowed to expand into DeSoto County?
Well, I think that's up to DeSoto County, and I don't have a relationship with Mosaic. And that's a problem with Tallahassee knows best preemption laws. Unless we're talking about an issue that truly impacts the entire state, you should let the local governments closest to and most accountable to the people make those decisions. Were it up to me, I think that the industry as a whole needs to clean up its act before we even think about permitting new mines.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, Commissioner Freed, your thoughts on Mosaic and its expansion to DeSoto County.
So I'll start with the first easy part. No, they should not be expanding into DeSoto County. In fact, I have written very strong letters to not allow for DeSoto to have an expansion of Mosaic. My relationship with Mosaic, let's see, they've threatened me. They've threatened to gut my budget, to spend a lot of money against me because I refused to meet with them, because I've gone out on a warpath against Mosaic. I have been, again, during 2020 legislative session, they had come into my office asking for me to make, well, they had representatives come into my office asking me to turn a blind eye to a project that was going on to a rural and family land. I said, absolutely not. They then threatened me and were going to gut my budget and all of my legislative priorities. So my relationship with Mosaic, I probably think that I am enemy number one for them, and I wear that with a badge of honor.
Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, Commissioner. Next question is actually a 2-minute question. It's Republicans are spending money on climate adaptation only, like moving coastal homes, but mitigation of energy sourcing and use is the basis for any meaningful climate harm reduction. I know we've touched on this a little bit, but this question is starting with Congressman Crist, going to Commissioner Freed, and then Senator Tadeo. Would you make the creation of a renewable energy portfolio a top priority as governor? And if so, what provisions would it include?
Yes, I'd make it a top priority. We need to get to 100% clean energy, and we need to get there as fast as possible. I would not only push for a renewable portfolio standard, we also need to have energy efficiency. Florida's utility monopolies rank near the bottom of the nation in energy efficiency. That's bad for the climate and it's bad for your pocketbook. Especially during the summer months, efficient appliances, windows, and roofs can make all the difference in saving money and reducing carbon pollution. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Freed.
I too believe in energy independence, and I believe that it starts with solar. Together, we will make the Sunshine State the leader in solar energy. We will preserve net metering and stop utilities and their lobbyists in Tallahassee from making solar more difficult to obtain and more expensive. I will set, again, attainable but yet aggressive renewable energy targets for our electric utility companies. My administration will target tax credits towards solar as well as other forms of energy generation. Florida will no longer ignore solar. We will streamline the adoption of solar, creating jobs with clean energy. Also, I have a history of doing all of just this, filing a 70-point plan, 72 pages, back when I first was elected in 2019, and all the legislation that came in 2021, 22, and 2020 all came from that plan. We have a history, we have a roadmap of exactly what needs to get accomplished. We did that in the Office of Energy. When I first walked in as commissioner, I was told by my predecessor that he didn't want to do anything with the Office of Energy if it didn't tie directly to agriculture production. So I came in on day one. I said to my Office of Energy director, your handcuffs are off. What would a state of Florida look like? And she and I, and along with our entire department, created this 72-page plan. And in it was our roadmap. It had laid everything out. And so what was the first thing that Governor DeSantis tried to do? Take my Office of Energy. But we fought back, we stood up, and I'm so proud of the work that we've been doing inside of the commissioner's office. And so we already have the roadmap of what needs to be accomplished to make sure that our state actually moves forward.
Great, thank you very much. And finally, Senator Tadeo, renewable energy portfolio and what would be included.
Well, actually, you can read it. I have been a co-sponsor with Representative Escamani of a bill specifically talking about what we should be doing in Florida to ensure that we have renewable energy. And that bill has the actual goal of 100% clean energy by 2040. And it enumerates all the things that we should be doing. And I think that more importantly, I think that we need to also talk to our Floridians about why this is so important to Floridians, specifically Floridians in minority communities, because those are usually the neighborhoods, the families that are most affected by climate injustice and most affected health-wise, which is why this is something that we all should pay a lot of attention to and talk specifically to those minority communities about why this is important to them, not just for their pocketbook, but also for their health and for the health and well-being and the future of Florida.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. We've scheduled some time for what we're calling the quick fire questions. And, this is it could be yes or no. Your response or could be, a short answer. So it's a 15 to 30 second response. Some of it we touched on already. And I'm going to try to kind of choose as we go if we've touched on it or not. But the basic question on all of these is, do you support or not support? And let's start this with Commissioner Freed. Do you support home rule versus state control?
The idea of home rule has been under attack in Florida for over 20 years. I trust local governments and their leaders to know what is best for their constituents and will work to rebuild home rule here in the state of Florida. Look at what happened in Key West. They need the power to do what is best for their communities. And the fact of the matter is Governor DeSantis got a $1 million campaign contribution, and that was reversed. So I'm a huge supporter of home rule. I've been supporting it throughout this pandemic and throughout my administration. And as far as, we need to work together to make sure that there's no preemption.
Senator Tadeo, support home rule versus state?
Yes, I am definitely somebody who believes in home rule, and I have the scars to prove it. I have been a huge fighter against the encroachment of Tallahassee bureaucrats trying to tell local communities what they can and cannot do is completely unacceptable. And of course, it is extremely dangerous when it comes to climate change, when it comes to the saltwater intrusion, the flooding problems we have, the things that we as a state are not dealing with. So each community has to plan on their own, which is actually part of the problem. But no, I am all home rule all the way and have fought every step of the way
Thank
for
you.
it.
Congressman Crist?
Yeah, home rule as much as possible. I mean, you know, one of the biggest problems we're facing is that we have an autocrat as a governor trying to promote autocracy over home rule. And whether it's a school board, a county commission, a city council, a local mayor, he's trying to tell everybody what to do all the time. Listen, we're Democrats running to preserve democracy. He's an autocrat running to establish and continue autocracy. It's appalling.
Thank you very much to all. Okay, support or not support?
If I may, just everybody,
Okay.
please, if I may, try to answer these. We want to do quick fire and get as many answers from you guys as possible so we don't have to send out questionnaires to fill out. So try, if you can just do a simple answer, do the simple answer. That was a gimme. We spent a minute and a half on a gimme. We don't need to do that. We know, but go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Senator Tadeo. Real pollution control legislation, not just voluntary best practices regulating discharge to ground and surface waters of current major and non-point sources. I know it's a long one. You know what they are: lawn fertilizers, agriculture fertilizers, and other runoff, stormwater, all of the above. Do you support real, actual numerical pollution control legislation?
Absolutely. And let's not forget dog poop.
What was that one?
Dog poop.
Oh, dog poop. Pick up the poop. Yes. Thank you. Good point. Congressman Crist.
Yes, I absolutely do support that.
Excellent. And Commissioner Freed.
I do too. I actually put forth some legislation this past year that supported that, and unfortunately, I didn't move in the legislature.
I'm stunned. All right. Next, we'll start with Congressman Crist. Would you require developers to use native or Florida-friendly trees, plants, and ground covers to reduce water use and reduce water pollution?
As much as possible, of course. You know, we want to make sure that we're utilizing trees and landscaping that doesn't suck the water out of the ground to the degree that can hurt so much.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I think the question was, would you to support local trees? Is that
Requiring developers to use
Yes.
native trees, plant, right.
I'm
It's the
Commissioner
best way to
of-
do it.
I'm the Commissioner of Agriculture. Of course, I'm going to support our locals.
And Senator Tadeo?
100% yes. We should be doing that. And I think it says a lot that we're not.
It certainly does. There's something out there right now called the Right to Clean Water Amendment. It's an organization called FL5.org, Florida5.org, where you can print off the amendments. I don't know if you've seen it, but the Right to Clean Water actually really gives us the right to, gives us standing to actually sue for clean water, which is what we all deserve. So, question, obviously you can tell how I feel. Support or not support? Commissioner Freed.
Support.
Senator Tadeo.
Yes, and I actually signed it already.
Excellent. Congressman Crist.
Of course, yes.
All right. This came up a little bit earlier, but the termination of big sugar land leases in order to create a sufficient reservoir for Lake Okeechobee, support or not support? Commissioner Freed.
Yes.
Senator Tadeo.
Yes.
And Congressman Crist.
Yes.
All right. Next one's a little more, shall we say, complicated. Support or not support state regulation of single-use plastics, starting with Senator Tadeo.
100%. Yes.
Congressman Crist.
Yes, and hopefully in concert with local governments as well. All hands on deck.
And Commissioner Freed.
So this is going to be a little bit longer. First of all, I do believe in regulation of single-use plastics and will consider a statewide law modeled after the ban of the single-use plastics that we've seen successfully in Miami and St. Petersburg. And we also need to just get rid of them altogether. Let's just start there. Not just regulate them, but work on getting rid of them. And that's exactly why I worked on legalization of hemp here in the state. It's going to be an industrial revolution that is going to replace our plastics and our styrofoam and use less water, better for the environment, clean up our waters. It is a miracle plant, but we should be focusing on how to actually eliminate the single-use plastics altogether. Very
nice. All right, well, we did touch on this too about the virtually free aquifer extraction by for-profit corporations like Nestle. That is something I know that state typically gives something like a 50-year lease for $1. I mean, it's an outrage. Thoughts on that? Yes or no? Starting with Congressman Crist. Do we stop that? Thank you.
Yes, we stop it. Yes.
Commissioner Freed.
Of course.
And Senator Tadeo.
Surprise. This is my bill. So yes, 100%.
Very nice.
And it's outrageous that we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, we only have so much and the budget is overdrawn. So, okay. I combined these, but they're often put forth separately. And one of them is coastal oil drilling, and the other tends to appear to be more land-based, which is, we call it fracking. It's actually in Florida, it's acid fracturing, since we have lime rock and not, shale. But your thoughts on just a ban on coastal drilling and Florida-based drilling and fracking? Let's see. Commissioner Freed.
Well, thank you for this question. I have been ardently opposed to any offshore drilling and fracking. I always have been, unlike others on this call, unfortunately. We had called for a study in 2008 to be considered when he was running potentially for vice president. But I have written letters both to EPA, to DEP, to the governor's office opposing all this, and we've actually been able to make success from here.
Thank you. Senator?
I think that we should absolutely not allow for these things. I mean, this is, I've co-sponsored the ban on fracking. I don't think we should be drilling off our coast. I mean, we know more than anyone how dangerous this is. And again, it goes back to our bill about making sure that we have 100% clean energy by 2040.
All right, Congressman Crist.
Yeah, absolutely. No offshore oil drilling or fracking. I was governor during the Deepwater Horizon horrific spill and worked with the Obama administration, directly with President Obama, as a matter of fact, to do everything we could to protect our shore. And in Congress, have worked with Representative Kathy Castor to make sure that we have a permanent ban on oil drilling off Florida.
Great. I've got one in here that's really about something that I certainly care very deeply about. In 2019, there was a bill, House Bill 1159 was put forth to essentially stop local governments from protecting their tree canopy. The state in no way took over that responsibility, so here we are. We've got problems with that. Would you make it a priority to rescind HB 1159 to start protecting trees again in Florida, starting with Senator Tadeo?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. Congressman Crist.
Yes, I would as well.
And Commissioner Freed.
What a surprise. We have a piece of legislation that takes away power and hurts our environment. There's a lot of things that need to be reversed, but this is one of them.
Thank you very much. That's it for our rapid fire questions.
Thank you, Kathy.
And go ahead, Russ.
Thank you. We are running a couple minutes behind, so I appreciate you cutting the quick fires. The last section is follow-up and accountability. But in between that, I'm going to launch a quick poll, please. This is just for our own self-interest. Please join our caucus. I want to see, we're going to take a poll of where you guys are at, and let us know if you are willing to join the caucus, and if you want to be on our mailing list. So please take a second and support us if you would be so kind. Yeah, you don't have to do it right now. We're going to put the link in chat to join and all of that, but just to get this in and out as quickly as we can. But as people are doing that,
Russ, I have a quick question about that. If you are a member of a specific caucus in like Leon County, does that still count to the main caucus?
No, it does not,
Okay.
actually. If you are a chapter member, you are not automatically a state member. So if you are a chapter member, you might be a member of Pinellas or Leon or Miami-Dade. That does not automatically make you a state member, unless the state has received your dues. And you can text me in chat. I have the membership list next to me if you're not sure, and I'd be happy to text you back in chat if you are not a member, if you want to rejoin. It's calendar year, so it ended in December. But I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. Thank you, everybody who signed up and answered that, and we have some people to reach out to afterwards. But thank you for that question.
Thank you. We do have one final accountability question, and then we'll do a couple follow-ups. But this one is, it really is more personal, and we'll start with Commissioner Freed. What targets have you been unable to accomplish, or what missteps have you made specific to the protection of Florida's environment, and how would you correct that as governor?
You know, as I've kind of talked through this entire forum, we did a lot. We did a lot as commissioner inside of our department. Every single opportunity that we had, we looked at ways to protect the environment, to create that balance, to do better inside of our agriculture water, to make sure that we redid all of our manuals. And then, as you heard, I sent over 7,000 cases for the first time ever to DEP. We spent a significant amount of time working on our banning of styrofoam. We spent time on hearing after hearing, writing of the rules. Then it went to the legislature, which they didn't implement. So there's a lot of things, including legislation that we have been filing in 2019, 2020, 21, 22, everything from more carbon sequestration, more till drilling inside for agriculture, a lot of things agriculture centric. You heard my goals of getting to 100% renewable by 2050. But I can't do this alone. And unfortunately, with the Democrats in the minority, that we weren't able to get this accomplished. And as you even, Senator Tadeo said, that you've got a governor who has this ideas of what the environment looks like and then doesn't follow through on literally anything. That if he doesn't know, he only knows about the Everglades because of the Everglades Foundation and Trust. You have billionaires that sit on their boards. That is the only reason why he even talks about the Everglades. He doesn't understand. So we didn't have a partner here, which I was hoping for. So all the things that I've been unable to accomplish is not because of our lack of fight, of our lack of pushing the legislature, of trying to do good. But we weren't able to get across the finish line because we have a legislature who just wasn't going to give successes and wins to the only Democrat statewide. So these are the things that will be a priority as your governor to get finalized, get across the finish line, and finally have somebody in the governor's office who are going to take all these things seriously.
Senator Tadeo, and the question, what targets have you been unable to accomplish, or what missteps have you made that you'd like to correct as governor?
Well, I think obviously part of the frustration when you are in the minority in the Florida Senate or anywhere in the legislature is the fact that it's so difficult to get anything done. And when you do, then comes in the powers that be, and it just, they make sure to kill anything good that we try to accomplish. I will say that that is one of the reasons why I'm running for governor. I mean, we need to at least have the power of the governor's office with the veto pen, because I know I've built relationships across the aisle with my fellow senators, fellow House members, where you know that many of them get it. You speak to them and they actually say, yes, this is actually good policy, but you know, the governor's office calls and I got to go with however the governor says. And it just really, that to me is the most frustrating thing, to see that some of these people get elected and then they don't represent the people that elected them. They represent their party and their governor instead of the people. And that to me is going to be the biggest change that we can make to ensure that the people are actually in charge, that we're doing what is best for everyone, not just for those well-connected. And to me, that is going to be the biggest thing that we can get done when we get the governor's office, is actually moving forward, repealing really bad things that we have done, pouring into these boards the right people to make the right decisions, and then being able to actually pass positive thinking legislation that will be good for our environment and therefore good for our economy and good for Floridians.
Thank you. Congressman Crist.
Yeah, well, the not so great recession decimated the state's income revenue, meaning that we couldn't complete the job on buying sugar land for Everglades restoration. That was a once-in-a-generation deal that was derailed by a once-in-a-century recession. If we had an additional 100,000 acres of land between Lake Okeechobee and the Everglades, the true dream of full restoration of the Everglades would then be in focus.
Thank you. Just some time for follow-up. Russ, do you have any follow-up?
Yes. So the last little bit, I did open the chat. So if anybody has questions that you would like to put into chat, and either the candidates or the staff can answer those, or we can take them afterwards and send them to them. But feel free to go in chat if audience has questions, and we'll pull the questions in Facebook land as well. But I had a follow-up generally. Let me go real quick. Bear with me. And I'm going to ask one question of each of you and give you a minute to answer. Regarding environmental justice, Congressman Crist, you said you wanted to put 1 million roofs, 1 million solar panels up on roofs. There's been a history of the energy companies not really looking at local communities when they do that. How will you make sure in your administration that we account for environmental injustice when we put those in? And the second half of that is 1 million solar panels enough, truly?
Well, I think it's a great start. And, the longest journey begins with the first step. When I was governor, I actually put solar panels on the governor's mansion, only to find that when I had left, Governor Scott took them off, and have been there in 12 years. So you lead by example as well. But yeah, we need at least a 1 million solar roofs in Florida. We're the sunshine state. We ought to be the international leader when it comes to solar energy across the globe.
Thank you. Senator Tadeo, my question for you is, as a Miami-Dade resident, you're very familiar with FP&L. They have recently expanded up until the Panhandle, which led to our current governor, at least he says, not approving the community solar legislation that the legislation passed. What is your opinion on FP&L, and where do you think they should be? How should we interact with them?
Well, let me first say that I was surprised that he vetoed that bill, and I voted against that bill. But I do think that that we have a great deal of influence in Tallahassee of businesses, and there are things that we can do, and I can tell you that is not very often that you'll see us trying to come up with solutions, even with a company like FPL, to try to work with them. But in Miami-Dade, we did do it, and there was a bill that we passed, and that I was very much a part of it, one of my bills to reuse the dirty water, the water that was going into the bay. If you remember, we had all these dead fish on the water. It stunk, but it really was a huge problem. And it's been a huge problem for decades, and we know that we had to deal with it. So it's a strange thing to see that we were able to come up with a way to reuse that water and for FPL to actually reuse it at their plant and clean it up. So there are things that we can come up with to work together without having to necessarily always not do that.
Commissioner Freed, my question for you is the current, you oversee in your official capacity energy policy in Florida, correct?
No.
Go ahead and clarify that, and then I'll answer. I want to give you that opportunity to set that record before I ask the question. I want to make sure everybody understands. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that the clarification. So we've got the Office of Energy. It is more a think tank, and it is a pass-through of federal dollars. And we sit on some boards, but we do not set policy, which is why my setting of the energy goals can only be goals because I don't have the power to implement them.
Thank you. So we're going to segue with that question. I wanted to clarify that why you're not getting an energy directly question. What I am going to ask you is a fuel question, because that is under yours. Do you think our inflation, I've heard a lot about fuel being overly expensive, using ethanol fuels. Is your department doing everything it can? What more could your department do in making sure that DeSantis isn't getting credit for the office for your work or lack of work?
So we cannot, it's the Attorney General who actually oversees any price gouging. So there's price gouging at the pump that is through the Attorney General's office. But what we are able to do is what you saw, that rulemaking, that emergency rule that we put out last week, which allows for the E15, which is the winter blend, to continue going in until May 20th. So the EPA first did that waiver. That allows now the usage of more gas that is out there and having to start pulling it back. The other thing is that we are looking into whether or not I have the power to do this. There is a piece of statutes that makes sure that you can't go below the wholesale price of gas. So we know that we can do that, and we can waive waive that statute during times of emergency. So we are looking to see if we have to wait for the governor to declare a state of emergency, or we've got the power to do so. So those are some of the things that we are looking at. But look, we all know this. The governor put a tax-free holiday in October. What do we think happens in November? If he actually cared, he would be doing it now. We have sent letters up for an investigation as far as the price gouging to the federal government as well.
Thank you. Let's see, what time are we at, Kathy? How are we doing on time?
7:48. We're really right at the close of follow-up. I just want to say that I hope you all can, or we can create a document, because there are some amazing questions in the chat. And we don't have time to go through them all, but they're really, really excellent. I think one of my favorites was, what are you going to be doing? What do you do to reach out to voters in the Panhandle? And it was different. Quick thoughts, anyone?
Well, let's
show up.
Exactly.
Show up.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think and this is where we're going to get into the messaging, I think, in just a little bit after we close this out. But yeah, if Dems don't show up, they don't get votes, and we can't ignore red and purple counties getting redder and deeper. We have to have a 67 county strategy. There is no doubt whatsoever. The environment touches all 67 counties. Our caucus specifically can knock doors on rivers, lakes, and streams on environmental messaging. Even if you're a Republican, even if you're an MPA, if you live on a river, lake, or stream, or pond, or fishery, whatever it is, on a setback, on a conservation easement, on an area that has natural wildlife, you're an environmental voter. You're a conservation voter. Use our messaging, because it will work. So we'll get into the messaging at the end of it. So I'll get off the soapbox from that point for the moment. But I think, Kathy, we are at closing. And what I will do is I will copy all of these in chat, all of these questions, and make sure each of the campaigns get them. And so, Kathy, do you want to do the closeout? Or is that where we're at? Oh, we have a, sorry, closing remarks.
We have a 2-minute closing remark from each candidate, essentially.
Okay.
So,
so we'll do 2 minutes closing for each candidate, and then I'll do the post-form support poll, which we'll get, and then we'll get into the messaging and let you guys go if you can't stay. So I guess with that.
We'll just start with Congressman Crist and we'll go alphabetical.
Well, listen, thank you all for having us and being with you for this important conversation this evening. Make no mistake, I'm running for governor to defeat Ron DeSantis, as we all are, and to build a Florida for all, one where we can do the following: tackle climate change head on and protect Florida's environment, deliver a $15 minimum wage, legalize marijuana, put justice back into our criminal justice system, protect our right to vote, defend democracy, protect a woman's right to choose, and support our LGBTQ community. And I know that can come in November. We can and we will be successful, but in order to do so, we have to be more organized and more united than ever before. So thank you all for doing what you're doing, because in the coming months, Florida's going to make the decision about what our future is going to be like. Florida will make the decision to get rid of Ron DeSantis, because Ron DeSantis is wrong on everything. We can do this together. Join our movement. Visit charliecrist.com. Sign up to volunteer. Let's go win this thing, and thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you. Commissioner Freed.
Thank you again for this evening. When I ran and won in 2018, flipping a seat by almost 1 million votes, my predecessor won 20 points. I ran on 3, again, very easy issues: weed, weapons, and water. And that's exactly what we have done. But as governor, I can do so much more for you and for the environment. We're going to stop all of these culture wars, and we're going to lower your cost and raise your standards of living. And this is how we beat Ron DeSantis. When he has done nothing on property taxes, rent, healthcare, transportation, and the environment and everything else, we will. Where he's done nothing to raise our standards of living on our environment, water, and everything else, we will. When someone asks you why we need to try something new with Nikki Fried, I want to let you know this. First, I've won before as a Democrat across our state, and I will do it again. But second, because I'm going to lower their costs and raise their standards of living. My lower cost, higher standards plan establishes clean air and water development funds, sets attainable but aggressive renewable energy targets for our electric utilities, implements an aggressive Everglades restoration plan, increase tax incentives of residents who utilize water-saving, Florida-friendly landscaping, streamlining the adoption of solar. These are real, tangible things that we will actually put more money in your pockets and help our treasured environment. This is what we've been missing at the top of the ticket, a platform that will translate not just to win for me, but more importantly, for the entire down ballot. Lower costs, higher standards across the board. This is how we win. So, Democrats, let's try something new. Let's elect the first female governor of our state. Let's finally put somebody in the governor's mansion who's going to take care of you.
Thank you. And Senator Tadeo.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to Charlie and Nikki for participating in this and for you guys for putting it together. I'm Senator Annette Tadeo, and I'm here to tell you that we absolutely must win for the future of Florida and for us to truly save our democracy, not just in Florida, but in our country. And I am a fighter. I'm the daughter of a fighter pilot who fought in World War II. He fought the Nazis. And he always told me, when the cause is just, don't stand on the sidelines. Get in there and fight for what you believe. And that's what we're doing right here in this campaign, which is why we have done our 67 county tour, where we've gone everywhere. Started in Pensacola, as far away from Miami where I am, all the way going all over the state, because it's so important that we leave no voter behind, that everybody understands that this is an addition issue and we have to win. But we have had major problems, especially with the Hispanic vote. And as someone who has won now twice in a seat that Trump carried by 6 points, I can tell you that I know that the loss of the vote has been substantial because we haven't fought back the attacks on socialism and defund the police. And we have to fight back, and we have to have a candidate that has proven that she can fight back and win those votes, because that is how we add up to a winning number. And then we will be able to do all of the things we just spent an hour talking about climate change, about climate justice, because again, minority communities are the most affected by all of these issues that our governor and our government has not dealt with and is not thinking long-term and only thinking of the next election. That's why I ask you to join Annette Tadeo at AnnetteTadeo.com. Join us so we can make history. Yo soy Annette Tadeo y voy a ser la primera gobernadora hispana y mujer de la Florida. Gracias. Thank you. That's how we win.
Thank you. And that reminded me to ask her, or if you're going to do this, Russ, about everyone puts their campaign information in the chat for you.
Oh, yeah, please. Feel free to include links to your campaigns. I guess thank you for attending. I guess I'm picking up where Kathy left off. Yeah, please put your candidate contact information in the chat, ways to get involved. I did relink the link to renew your dues, and I'm actually going to launch 2 more polls real quick. If the candidates would stay on for those. Well, I guess we don't need you guys, but you guys are welcome to stay on, answer any questions in chat if you have nothing better to do, which I'm sure you do, but we'll get those questions to your staff. I appreciate everybody for coming. Thank you, Kathy, for moderating. Please stay on for the last 2 polls. Nobody else can see this except me and Kathy. We are not going to report this because we're going to take this poll. We are going to check this against the membership list, including everybody that renewed today, to take your input. And then this will be our democratic input to make sure we understand where our voters are in the primary on who they support post-poll. And then I have one other poll that I'm going to launch shortly, but give me another 30 seconds on this one. So yeah, the endorsement decision will be forthcoming as the candidate qualifying period closes, which I believe is June 17th. So we'll have a meeting scheduled just shortly thereafter and get that, as well as some of the other down ballot races, the early endorsements out and announced. Leadership Blue is upcoming July 15th to July 17th. We will have a meeting there. I will put the link to sign up for the Florida Dims event in chat there. So you can sign up and get all of your updates for that. And we're going to have a loose conversation on messaging momentarily. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Thank you for those who participated. Please renew your dues as quickly as possible. And I'm going to do the last poll, which is my call to ask, my call to get engaged. We will give you the skills and the tools on train you if you do not know how to message, if you do not know how to knock doors, if you do not know how to phone bank. We will provide those resources to knock environmental and conservation voters. So I gave you a will you volunteer, if you'll volunteer for your campaign, one of the campaigns specifically, or for us in support of these campaigns, let us know. Thank you so much for everybody being here. Thank you so much to Kathy and the candidates for helping me put this together and making sure everybody had a fantastic time. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. And we are on time at 7:59. Look at that.
Amazing. Well done, Russ.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We got great candidates.
Thank you. Good luck to all.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Thanks everybody for coming.